This is the Global Broadcasting Service, serving remote outposts since 1928.
Hi, everyone. Welcome aboard the Walt Disney World Express monorail.
Caramba, we have something really big for you today.
Welcome, foolish mortals.
Now then, hang on to them hats and glasses, because this here's the wildest ride in the wilderness.
This is the DBC Pod with Phil Schoen and Jason Dodge. Hello, friends. Welcome to this week's pod. This is a show for the week of May 6, 2024. And there's a lot of non-news news kind of dribbling. So rumors, second quarterly reports from Disney that were a snore, as they usually are.
Yeah, good thing we pushed back a day.
Yeah, so
so that we could report out nothing.
Yeah, so we're recording this on a Tuesday. Normally, the podcast would have come out about 12 hours ago. We record this on Monday nights, but we said, all right, let's do Tuesday night instead and wait for the quarterly report. And Phil, what came out in the quarterly report? almost nothing.
Yeah, we were kind of thinking it might be something that would come out of it because for some reason they decided to provide the earnings and have the call in the morning before like the markets open. It was at like 8:30 this morning. Normally they do it at the end of the day after hours and that sort of thing. So people were thinking like, oh, maybe they have some announcement to make or there's a reason that they're doing this. I don't know if there was a specific reason. It could be they did report out that the entertainment portion of their streaming, so Disney Plus and Hulu, have turned profitable, which is quicker than their estimation. They said by September. They did a little earlier. So I don't know if their thought was like, this is good news. Let's get it out there and that sort of thing. The problem is they reported down numbers for traditional television and other entertainment. And also that while the parks and stuff did really well, they're seeing some signs of slowdown and kind of the end of the post-pandemic revenge travel and stuff like that.
Let's
summer's
stop.
going to be really slow.
Yeah, I want to talk about that because that's one of the things I picked up on because what we can see because they have to report their expectations for the next quarter. Yeah. And the parks is such a huge profit center for them at this point because movies and everything else is not 2019 levels where they're making $10 trillion in a summer from like 2 Marvel movies. So there's travel agents that post in several places on the internet that have like some insight for like bigger travel agencies where it's slow, where it's not, that type of thing. And summer is incredibly soft, right? That's what everybody's been saying. They are expecting a very, like you said, a very, very slow summer. I think like there's deals all the way up to Christmas, so they're expecting a soft. What is that? I guess that's Q1 2025 for them.
For them,
right?
Yeah. Yep.
And I think what we might be seeing, yes, there's a lot of different financial people going around saying that people have spent all of their COVID money, everything's going away, and that's just not the $3,000 check that you might have gotten during COVID. It's the people said that a lot of Americans saved a lot of money during COVID because they weren't spending $50 or $100 a week in gas. They weren't going out to eat for several years or major vacations, that sort of thing. So we had that whole revenge travel thing, but more people had all that stuff, which kind of buttressed them against inflation that we've had over the last 4 years. But that's finally winding down, or people kept spending and now they're in a little bit too much debt and they can't go to Disney World, that type of thing. So, it's just not Disney World that's reporting that. It's basically the economy as a whole is talking about that quite a bit. So, and I think you also have a little bit of what's happening with Epic Universe coming up too, because Disney World is soft on or entertainment options to come to the parks, right? There's no reason to go to Disney World at this point. So, there's that rumor that they're going to take down Big Thunder, Runaway Railway, not Runaway, Jesus.
No, it is Big Thunder, yeah.
Big Thunder Mountain, and Big Thunder, and then there's hints about Space Mountain, like a lot. Like it seems like there's like a Peter Pan permit that came out today, and I think but yeah, just little touches. But I think we're starting to see like a large wave of like this is the stuff that we should have been doing for like the last 5 years.
Yeah, it seems like that's the focus. The other kind of big thing that was talked about a lot was they had that slide. They've used them before, but it kind of says like, here's what's coming up. And they have, the different parks around the world and the cruise line and the court. and like after Tiana's, there's like nothing.
Nothing.
So,
a lot of cruise line stuff.
Yeah, they keep. Yeah, that's the last few lines are all the new cruise line ships coming, and then obviously they have some of the stuff in the international parks, like with Fantasy Springs out in Tokyo and stuff like that. But even that's only like the next couple of years or something. Like there really isn't that like anything for kind of 2025, 2026 and beyond.
But I think we're getting all that at D23.
I think
so.
I just think it keeps putting more and more pressure on them to have like concrete information out there. But yeah, so with all of that, despite the fact that their earnings per share beat out analyst expectations and stuff like that, the stock was down almost 10% today.
Well, because they had negative guidelines for the next quarter, right? It's like we had a great quarter this year. That's why they probably came out early. Let's make this great big thing because once they put the guidance out for continuing quarters, it's going to take a dive. So they wanted to kind of maybe rip the Band-Aid off, get that over with type of thing.
Yep. The only other thing I thought I'd mention here is they did talk about movies a little bit, and they talked about Marvel specifically and saying that they're going to focus on quality more than quantity now, which I think everyone's thankful for that. So they're talking about having like 2 Disney Plus series a year and like 2 to 3 movies a year. So that's a lot less content than they've had recently, which has been,
But that's good though, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't need a new Marvel show like every 2 months, right?
Yeah.
Like if they could kind of pump out the content where it's high quality every 2 months, sure, I'll take all the Marvel content.
Yeah.
But the problem is, I don't think you can do that from a writing point of view, right? Like it's...
Well, and I mean, we've talked about it before, but it was like the straightening the writers, it was changing all the video effects people, and like Kevin Feige obviously wasn't as hands-on with everything as he's been in the past. He just stretched too thin, so things aren't linking together like they used to. So hopefully they'll have more of a plan, and it'll be, kind of get back to, fewer things, but everything that comes out is really good and tighter stories interconnecting everything.
Yep. So again, not much else. Like they're not doing any park news. They're not doing anything, but they keep trying to get Iger to talk about park expansion. And there's people constantly calling in for, their questions during the meeting. And he's like, turbocharging, we're doing investment, it's coming.
It's like there's nothing on the docket, but we're turbocharging.
Yeah.
Like it's coming.
But, I think we talked about this, I don't know, over the last 8 to 10 months, I would think, where last fiscal year ending in September of last year, we were seeing a lot of winding down of like just doing nothing. It was like that was a year of bad. And starting in October, after all the Hulu stuff kind of went through and all that other type of stuff, it's going to be the year of good, right? And we don't have any announcements because they have a whole show based off all the exciting things, but Tiana's is being accelerated. That's going to be opening probably within the next 6 weeks or so. We're going to get all the D23 announcements, but it's all the behind the scenes stuff that we have not talked about stuff like this before. It's like fixing up, Big Thunder. It is the Peter Pan stuff I mentioned. It is permits being put together for this, that, the other. You're seeing a lot of maintenance being done that we haven't seen a wave of this in a very long time.
Yeah.
So I think that's stuff that you don't want to get excited for at all. Cause you should fix Big Thunder Mountain. Like you should do that every 20 years, right? You should not delay it. Spaceship Earth needs to be fixed. But other than not getting excited about these things, because these are boring maintenance things, but it should point to the direction that they're spending money. They know they need to upkeep things, and they're not the flashy things, but they're things that they need to be done, because then once those things are checked off, they're then free to invest other places in the parks, right? So like you want to add a whole bunch of new stuff to the parks, and they have to, but they have this big laundry list of things that they've been needing to do for years that they've been neglecting. But if they could somehow just spend a ton of money, knock all those out, then all of a sudden in 2026, there's now room for major investments because they got the boring stuff out of the way type of stuff. It's like drafting an offensive lineman in the first round of the draft. It's not flashy. It's not an amazing quarterback or wide receiver, but you need him, right, in order for your football team to be good. So there's a little NFL draft content for you guys out there. Another big thing, I know this was your topic, but I'll prompt you for it. It's halfway to Halloween, or just about over that, and they release a lot of the not so scary Halloween party information, which coincides a little bit with your vacation.
It does. So I mean, they shared information from other parks, including like the Oogie Boogie Bash and stuff over at Disneyland, but we'll focus a little bit on for Walt Disney World. They've announced the information about Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party this year. It will start on August 9th, because August 9th, obviously, is very traditional start of the Halloween season,
Of course,
especially in how hot it is in Florida.
130 degrees.
Yeah. Prices will range from $119 to $199 per an adult ticket. This is a $10 increase over what was the cheapest ticket last year, which was $109. So I was joking to my wife since we went last year, and I told her, I was like, well, one reason we should go now is because, and it was one of the cheapest nights. I was like, it's definitely not going to get any cheaper in the future. And it's already $10 more than what we paid per person.
That is triple the rate of inflation increase, basically.
Yeah. So one of the big changes they announced is that they always have the Boo to You parade twice a day or twice a party. And the early one is moving up from 9:15 p.m. to 8:15 p.m. So I think there's some speculation to make the parties even more kind of appealing to families with younger kids, saying like, look, you don't have to be out that late. The party's at 8:15, the parade and stuff like that. They're also going to have some more villains that'll be like walk around characters. And there'll be a meet and greet with both Bruno and Maribel. One interesting thing was they released like, here's all the attractions that'll be open during it. And it initially had Tiana's Bayou Adventure on there. So everyone's like, oh, you'll be able to ride it. And then they took it down. So they put an updated version up there that did not have that on there. So
they loaded the wrong image in there because it's going to be updated as soon as they're going to announce it. That picture is going right back up.
They just because it's not officially open yet. They probably, just liability reasons, they can't have it up there just in case something major goes wrong or something and it doesn't open or something.
Well, not that. I think they want to do a whole marketing campaign of when that ride opens, and they're like, well, obviously it opens because it's whatever. So I think it's just a marketing. Don't look too much into it. Let's put it that way.
So as Jason kind of mentioned, it obviously will have started before my trip goes down there. It'll be the second party would be on Tuesday, August 13th is a day we could go. Currently, we're not planning to go. I think we're saying the money that we would have spent on, say, party tickets is part of what we're doing to stay at a deluxe resort with the renting DVC points so that we get into the evening extra hours. So that's kind of going to be our plus item for this. I think if
did you do a cost analysis if what the cost of a party versus the deluxe plus evening hours?
I haven't done it like per hour or whatever, but like we talked about last time, I think it probably would have been about $100 per night extra versus a moderate. We're staying 6 nights. That's $600 for the three of us to do a party. Would be $350, $400. So it's probably spending a little bit more, but I'm getting the 2 nights one at Magic Kingdom, one at Epcot.
Yeah. Oh, I think that's a deal that I think you go for what you did with the deluxe.
And to be honest, like it's with my 2 youngest kids. They're probably the ones who are least into Halloween and stuff like that. It's just, especially my son, it's not really his vibe and stuff. So I think this will be a better option.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. It's always exciting. People really look forward to the party. We hadn't done one until last year. After doing one, I get it. I don't think it's going to work out this year. Although now that we know what's going on, I think there's a couple nights where maybe we could go to like, if it's non-park day, go to like the Poly Beach and watch the fireworks or something like that. We'll figure it out, but it's always nice, more things coming and more things for people to get excited about for planning for their trips.
Yep. I'm a big advocate. I used to be a large advocate for not doing the parties because they're so expensive. But if it is affordable for you and your family to go, right? I think if you're on the fence, I think you should always err on the side of going, especially if you've never gone before.
Yeah.
I was always worried, like pre-pandemic, the value wasn't there just because the parks were too crowded. But the last 2 years, they've been phenomenal as far as attendance is concerned. So, you could always you could do the cost analysis with like Phil just did, stay at deluxe and go to extra evening hours and plan it out that way, or go to the party. I think they're both equally interesting. So it's kind of like you got to weigh the not the cost, but weigh the experience. Like what's more beneficial for you. So if you were going, Phil, let me ask you this: if you hadn't been to the parks in, let's say, at least 3 to 5 years, would the choice be the same, or would you use that party day to go gung ho in the parks?
That's interesting.
What would you recommend to a friend then instead?
I guess if they hadn't done the party yet, like we just did it last year, so I feel like less of a need to do it. But if they hadn't done the party ever or in a long time, I think I would suggest going to the party, because especially if they haven't done it since COVID, they might still have in their mind what it was before that when it was crazy crowded. And I think this would get leave a much better taste in their mouth than maybe what they have.
Maybe. Well, I mean, also the other thing, I just thought about this, and it's kind of maybe a silly question to even begin with. But like, if you haven't been in so long, why are you spending the money on a deluxe resort? You're probably going to be spending more time in the parks because you haven't been there in quite some time, potentially. Anyway,
Yeah.
And then I got another friend of my wife asking me. She's going down to Florida for like a family event, a non-Disney vacation. She's going down there. I can't remember if it's like a graduation or a wedding or something else like that. But they're going to do 2 days at Disney, and she had the gall to ask. We want to go to Animal Kingdom for 1 day because my kids love animals. Should we go to Hollywood Studios or should we go to Magic Kingdom? This is the first time that she's brought her kids to Disney World as a whole. And I'm like, what did you just ask me? Of course you go to Magic Kingdom. So, yeah. And then she was asking me a bunch of questions about Genie Plus and stuff like that. And she's writing this long email about asking all these different questions. I'm like, ha, ha, ha. Please call me. I do not have the time to type out 10,000 word essay on how to use Genie Plus and all this other type of stuff. So hopefully she calls me and offer her some help.
And I've also found whenever I've attempted to do that, writing it out makes it sound 10 times more confusing.
Oh yeah, here's 30 steps on how to like. She asked me like, what are the best strategies on getting the most rides done in Magic Kingdom with Genie Plus, and do I need it? And I'm like, girl, like I need to walk you through this. If I write it, you're gonna be like, I'm just not gonna go to Disney World. I'm done.
Yeah.
So, okay. So I was trying to think of something that I wanted to talk to you about on this show, and it's been kind of light in the kind of newsy stuff because it's the calm before the D23 storm. Yeah. So instead of coming up with some random topic to kind of discuss, I want to throw a thought experiment at you, Phil. So it was May 4th. Right, so everybody's celebrating May the 4th be with you, Star Wars. All the Star Wars nerds were in Galaxy's Edge holding up their lightsabers. It was pretty awesome. Some of the pictures and the videos that I saw around the internet. And that got me thinking. So you have Star Wars. Star Wars is a pretty big galaxy, right? There's thousands of planets. Mm-hmm. Do you think that there is a Disney World in the Star Wars galaxy? Maybe not Disney itself, but a Disney World where you have theme parks and attractions in a Disney World? Do you think that exists in the Disney galaxy or the Star Wars galaxy?
Yeah, I think that it definitely does. Like you said, it's not going to be called Disney World, but it'll
maybe
be whatever.
It is. You never know.
Or maybe it is. I guess
there's a chance. But I guess it was a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, so Disney wasn't born yet. So maybe not. Maybe not Disney.
But one thing I always find a little funny about Star Wars is like obviously on Earth where we live, there's different like climates and temperatures and areas. It seems like in Star Wars, a world is like all snow or all sand or whatever. So there's probably a world that's all like an entire planet wide theme park. It's like,
that was my next point. I was like, is it like you call it Disney World, but is it a literal world?
Yeah. That's what I think it would be. It'd be like, whatever they call it, like theme park world or
Because like you said, everything in Star Wars is just like, it's a jungle planet. It's a water planet. There's no planet that has multiple climates in it whatsoever. Right. Obviously. So let me ask you, what kind of planet is it then? Is it a hot planet? Because we're used to like insane heat. Is it like, maybe not as lava bound as Mustafar, but is it
maybe
a
not Mustafar
planet?
Hot, but there's definitely like a Gungan forest or something like that where it's hot and it's humid and, they're complaining about the Wookiees not putting on deodorant and stuff like that when they go to visit because it's too hot and smelly.
Yeah, I would imagine it's probably in the core of the galaxy, right? Like it's got to be, that's where the populated part, like, everybody travels to Star Wars Disney World,
it's got to be like an easy trip from Coruscant and stuff like that where the center
like
of
a
the
quick
galaxy
like hyper jump like right over there. Like you can't be traveling.
Well, that's true. Like when you think about that, like where Walt picked the area in Florida because the two highways were going there, so it's probably like two hyperspace lanes.
Yeah, it's got to be. It's got to be right there. Now, is it on a planet or a moon? You think? Like, I mean, like, because a planet's pretty big, right? So, like, maybe you have some weird inhabitants in there that might like terrorize you because all Star Wars worlds have like crazy monsters potentially. But if it's a moon, it's a little bit smaller. Maybe
that's true.
Do you think now we can play with it? Do you think there should be less or more gravity in this Disney World? Because walking all day long, at least for humans, is tiring. But if the gravity is less,
that's true.
It's not.
So maybe
it's
they
not
picked
as
one
tough.
where it's like just about maybe 5 to 10% less. So it's a little lighter.
Help you out here. So even in our world, Disney World invariably gets involved in politics. So What do you think this Disney World does? Because it's a corporation, right?
Yeah.
It's not like an altruistic, like everybody's happy. No, there's a corporation that runs it, right? So, do you think they join the Trade Federation, or do they stay like supporting the Senate?
Oh, that's true. Everything's like a guild in Star Wars, right? So it's probably
Right.
like the theme park guild.
I mean, like, is the money that you're spending at Disney World contributing to like the droid army in like the prequels? Is like,
I think it's like, well, what we found is that everything with money was fueling both sides, right? So
you're buying your Star Wars Mickey pretzel or droid pretzel, whatever it's called, and you're
sure they were
funneling money into the
yeah.
war.
Well, I'm sure they were lobbying the Senate and stuff like that to pass proper tariffs or to eliminate tariffs and things, but also probably funneling money to some of the other guilds that need to build their next latest attraction and stuff like that.
Well, you got to get money from somewhere. So the banks, they probably need
Yeah.
loans from the banks to build their next greatest attraction.
Exactly.
So they got to play the politics, right?
Yep.
Disney gives money to all politicians, so
Yep.
they leave them alone. But what happens when the Empire comes, right? Because the Empire just doesn't shut down all commerce and everything in the galaxy. They just rule everything with an iron fist.
Right.
So what does our Disney World do? Is this just like a corporate theme park, like maybe like Six Flags? This is just, we're making money because, we're assuming that this is like the happiest place in the galaxy,
Yeah.
right? The most magical place in the galaxy, whatever you want, whatever version you want, right? Do they stick it out with the Empire? Are they funneling money to the rebels? Like, where does Disney work? Because, we just went through the whole thing down in Florida. They were supporting LGBTQ rights, right? And they're speaking out about it. Do they speak up against the Empire at all? Or do they keep their mouth? What version? Is it the Chapek Disney World, or is it the Iger where that plays the politics?
I think if they
Disney
learn
World?
from that, they would speak out, but with more skill.
You think?
with it,
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting to think about, because I do think if it's modeling after our Disney World, they would want to speak out a bit, but they also know, they need to kind of work both sides. Obviously our Disney still deals with China and stuff like that.
Sure.
So,
That's a very good point. So
Yeah.
what do they do to placate the Empire? They got to play. Is there like an Empire Day? Like, celebrate the Empire, like they roll out like, all the black and white flags and stuff like that, all the symbols, and like, stormtroopers like ride for free or half price admission or something.
yeah,
else like
maybe
that?
one of the parks, right? They shut it down early. So it's like, that'd be all over the blogs reporting on it. Like, oh, remember, whatever the equivalent of Hollywood Studios is closing early because the Empire has their Empire Day, so they could have all the Moffs and admirals and stuff bring their families there.
Now, because it's now taking over, and the Empire probably doesn't want private security taking over or existing. So do stormtroopers run security at all at this Disney World?
Yeah, I mean, if it's during the time of the Empire, they're definitely going to be involved in making sure that they're watching over it for sure.
Because it's a core world, right?
Yeah.
Like the stormtroopers are everywhere, and they're probably rooting out rebels. They got to have fun occasionally. So I don't know. Maybe stormtroopers are there now. Here's another thing, because Disney. If we're talking about Disney in our galaxy, it's a very inclusive place. So what happens at Disney World pre-Empire? Everybody gets to go, right?
Yep.
Aliens and humans. But what happens during the Empire times? Are aliens still allowed to go to Disney World, or is it just a human-only place?
It's interesting. I would think the Disney-ish company would want to allow everyone, but they probably have to put up with some people that aren't happy about it. The kind of the pro-Empire people that maybe make scenes and stuff like that. So I don't know. Maybe that they have like kind of right. There's like, kind of Pride Month or whatever. So maybe there's 1 month where they focus more on.
But would the Empire allow that though? That's my question, right?
Yeah, I guess they'd have to be more subtle about it. And so, I mean, think about it, like the government down in Florida does allow it. They're not necessarily happy about it. But.
Well, I mean, the government of Florida is not exactly the Empire
Right,
either, but I mean, we're almost there, but we're not quite there yet, right? So, okay. So, what about like Jedi? Like, let's ignore the Empire, right? The Empire is obviously probably going to try to keep the Jedi out, whatever. But like in a normal ops day, like this is the High Republic, right? Because this planet's been there for 2,000 years, of course, right? Because everything's been around for 2,000 years. Do Jedi want to go? Do they bring like Padawans? Like this is like, they're in the Jedi Temple and they're training. They're still kids. Like kids need to have fun, right? There needs to be like field trips. Do you think like Padawan, like the young ones that are almost killing each other with their small little lightsabers when they're training?
Yeah.
Like they're still children, right? They're not in the Jedi Order just yet, right? They're not full-fledged Jedi. So first of all, do they have field trips? Do Padawan, like young Padawans, do they have field trips? Because in lore, aren't they taken like when they're basically under the age of 2?
Yeah,
for the most part.
Ideally, well, they definitely have field trips to like various Jedi temples, but
that's not fun.
No,
fun?
I don't know if they have fun. Well, I guess it depends.
Are they allowed to have fun?
See, I feel like in the Jedi that we learned about in, say, the prequels, they're not really allowed to have fun. But in the High Republic era, there was a lot more fluidity to the type of Jedis that were allowed. So I think they might be a little bit more open to taking in more things and kind of being more of the world versus kind of, they were more like.
But they were still stoic, right?
They were stoic and stuff like that, but they weren't like they wore like, white and gold and what were much more like kind of showy and stuff like that. Versus I think, from the prequels and stuff, they were more like monks and stuff like that, more like withdrawn from the world.
So now I'm picturing a stoic monk bringing like 4 young, 8-year-old Padawans to our now Star Wars Disney World, Disney Planet. Is it called Disney World or Disney Planet?
Planet Disney.
Planet Disney. So Planet Disney, I'm just imagining like these stoic Jedi. It's hot, right? Of course, Disney World, Disney Planet has to be hot. And they got to tug around 4 Jedi children that are just messing around, right? So now, are there like gray Jedi that like wave their hands in front of cast members and say, we do have a lightning lane today, and then they go right to the front of the line? Do they abuse that, or do they play by the rules? Because I'm just imagining like these kids are like levitating like pretzels and they're eating them and like causing chaos because they're not fully trained. I can just see there's got to be some kind of rule about Jedi in the parks because you can't have unruly Jedi children running around.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think the idea is that even when they were little, if they were allowed out, they would have behaved and been proper and stuff like that. Not to say they wouldn't make mistakes. But yeah, I guess it would have to be, especially if there are any games of chance, that no Force users are allowed to.
Well, I don't think Disney would have games of chance, right? But I could see abuse of like, obviously there's going to be blogs of like, how aliens can get on 30 rides at a day, right? Because obviously the day-night cycle on this planet, it's like 80 hours of day and like 5 hours a night. So you can operate that park like so much, right? That's how you're going to make all this money. So you're going to go on 30 rides a day. There's all these blogs on how to do it. Do you think like there's tips for Jedi on how to get like, or do they like just, they could just, maybe because they're Jedi, they can wait 5 hours in a line and just be okay with it because they're just meditating.
Yeah, they'll just
the
meditate or whatever. Yeah.
So they're fine with that. Maybe they're just dealing with it's a training thing for the kids. Like if the kids go on the Haunted Mansion or Haunted Sarlacc Pit dark ride, right, and the young Jedi throws a temper tantrum hour 2 into that wait, they get kicked out. Right. You cannot be a Jedi. Like your patience is not good. You have to be able to be calm. It's like a test, maybe. Maybe it's a test for the Jedi also dealing with like 4 Padawans in Planet Disney.
Right. Well, this is the test of the Jedi Master to see if they're worthy of having a Padawan. You have to take some kid to Planet Disney to see if you can actually survive the day. And if so, that means you're ready to be a teacher.
Right. You're ready to go on. So now, of course, everybody in the Star Wars galaxy universe has a spaceship for the most part, right? I mean, obviously, poor people can't afford to go to Disney Planet, but everybody has a spaceship, right? Mm-hmm. So they're going there. What's a thrill ride look like in Star Wars Planet Disney or Disney Planet? Like, what kind of rides do they have? Because obviously, it's more exciting to go around in your own personalized spaceship versus a roller coaster. So, what does it look like? I don't even know what it could be.
Yeah, that's interesting. I guess it would be, I guess you'd still have to have themes to whatever's popular, what IP is popular in the Star Wars galaxy. Could have entertainment and music and stuff like that.
Well, that's normal stuff. Like, I mean, like you still can have dark rides because still people like a good story, right? But like pure roller coasters, I guess kids still like roller coasters.
Yeah, I mean,
right?
there still would be and like kind of loops and spinning and stuff like that and drops. I mean, you fly in. I mean, people fly in Star Cruisers and stuff like that, but they're not mean, it's not like Anakin's flying all of them and he's spinning around and jumping
That's
and
true.
stuff like that.
That's true. Everybody has
Most
to
of
be
them are just kind
responsible.
of like more like
Yeah.
carriers and stuff.
So you've got I got how do I put this? So we got the world or the universe of Star Wars, like their technology sucks, right? Other than like hyperspace travel and like anti-grav type of stuff, their technology is pretty worse than ours because you don't see anybody walking around with like iPhones and like really cool gadgets and stuff like that. So I have to imagine, like, I can't think in any kind of Star Wars tech that would make a good dark ride, right? Because we were talking last week about like the floor tiles and able to potentially use the Force, and the engineered that type of thing. A lot of the cool effects that you see, other than maybe like holograms, like what kind of Disney or what kind of Star Wars universe tech could make like a good dark ride that's different from ours? Because I don't really see it.
Yeah, I mean, obviously they can do more things with gravity and moving those things around, holograms. I don't know what else do they have that could be.
Well, that's it, because
Yeah.
all their screens are like this big, and if you're
Yeah.
listening, I'm holding like making my fingers in like a 4x4 square. Like the TVs aren't big; they have holograms, but everything else is like laser guns and laser swords, and that's
Yeah,
about
so their
it, right?
Space Ranger spin light laser shooting thing should look a lot better than ours, though.
But here we go. Planet Disney doesn't like violence, and you can't have laser guns in there because they're actual laser guns in the world. Like that's the way. Like no one has. Like maybe Space Ranger Spin is actually like guns with like bullets in them now because no one uses like that type of, other than like maybe sand people, right? They have rifles with like stones or something else that they shoot with. They don't have lasers. So here's another question. So the Star Wars universe, at least the ones that we've seen in the movies, is notorious about being like kind of run down type of thing. Like a lot of the equipment is not all perfect, other than maybe like the Empire that's spending a lot of money on it. Do you think this Disney Planet Disney is run down? They have maintenance issues?
No, I think this one's good. I mean, we saw places, like Canto Bight and stuff like that,
Well, that
where
was
all the
my
rich
next
people
point.
went. It was all glitzy and well put together. So I would think it would be closer to that, where it's well put together. Now maybe it's because it's the whole planet, so maybe there's different parts, and some are kind of like like how we have deluxe resorts and
Oh, you
moderate
think there's
resorts and
like
stuff.
they have actual theme parks that are for like people with more money,
Right,
and,
so there's
we have,
like
the
deluxe
poor
theme
neighborhoods,
parks and value theme parks, and
more segregation of the Disney
Yeah.
Galaxy. Because like in Canto Blight, it's like that was only rich people, right?
Right.
And like the poor people were like the stable keepers and stuff, like the support staff, and that
Yeah.
was it. So we got to see a lot of, I guess, poor / middle class people being transported around. And I think it was like, wasn't it Obi-Wan series where they were like on the transports
Yeah.
going back and
Mhm.
forth, right? So people basically taking the space bus from planet to planet. So do you think there's in this Disney Planet that there's those huge transport centers, like literally what I would imagine a TTC would actually be, rather than just 5 giant parking lots, 3 docks, and
yeah, it's probably
a
what it
monorail
is,
station?
right? Yeah, you have the transports coming in from around the galaxy, direct from Coruscant. It's basically Star Tours, right? And they bring them to the TTC, and then from there, maybe they take people movers out to whether they're going to the deluxe park or the value park or whatever.
Do we have Magical Express on this planet?
No, of course not. That's
Well, I mean, like you're in a centralized spaceport, right? Like, how do you get all over the planet? Like, you just took you're definitely not allowing private spacecraft to be flying
Right.
all over the planet, right? There's going to be like rules against that. Like, Magic Kingdom, you don't have flyovers, right? Like, so,
yeah, you'll
do you have to
take
get
some
there and
sort
then you
of-
have to pay for it, or do they have like a free bus where you have
Well,
to?
I think it'd be
kinda go?
yeah. I guess that's what I'm
How do you
thinking.
get
More
around?
like the inter-property buses and stuff like that, and people mover type systems, and that you see going from like where the landing pads are that bring people to the main building and stuff like that. So that would be included with your hotel stay or whatever.
Okay. Because I'm thinking like it's got to be tough to like get around the planet from this massive spaceport. Like, because I'm picturing like this is like the #1 tourist destination.
Yeah.
It's like that scene from Andor where he was like on the beach planet or whatever,
Yeah.
beach resort, but like that times a billion, right? So you got to have some way to disperse the crowds, I think. So I think they have to have some kind of infrastructure. Now, speaking of infrastructure, does Disney Planet have their own like security system like around the planet, like guns and stuff like that to prevent from like people from fighting them? Do they have their own space force attached to
I don't
that? Because
know.
obviously they can afford it. It's a planet of attractions, right? And so I mean, like,
Yeah, they must have
What do
something.
you
I mean,
feel
maybe they
about
try to
that?
be more defensive, and they have like an energy shield around the whole planet that they can turn on to keep people out.
so it's purely defensive. They don't have like weaponry because I would imagine that they would have to have weaponry.
I mean, they would
in
have
Star Wars.
some in
Everybody
there,
has
'cause
weaponry,
obviously,
right?
like everybody's carrying guns and stuff like that in Star Wars. So I'm sure they have something. Whether it's what are like the Bounty Hunter Guild or I don't know who they would use. So I'm sure they have some local law enforcement type thing, but I don't know if they have like interplanetary type weapons and stuff like that, so that they could like attack. If a big like force comes, I don't know if they could defend themselves against that.
Do you think this Disney planet has trouble in certain parts of the calendar for getting slow, like Disney World's getting ready to right now, or are they constantly full? Because I could see that's a machine that's like constantly going until the rebels blow or the Empire blows up a planet. Alderaan, people get kind of worried and kind of stay home,
Yeah,
like
that's
a
true.
galactic recession type of thing going on.
Yeah, I think they would still be susceptible to galactic recessions, and when people are scared to travel and stuff like that. Like that probably is a problem when the Empire took over or was in the process of taking over, or for others maybe they're more worried about the rebels blowing things up. But yeah, but I would think under normal operations, say back during the High Republic, I would think they would be pretty steady because they could almost market. There's so many planets that you could market. Somebody celebrating a holiday at pretty much all the time, right? So they could kind of market to that. Somebody would have their summer breaks at all.
Oh, you got to have
times
like the
and stuff
Epcot land. It's just like there's a new holiday every single year. Like it's the
Yeah.
major holidays of the galaxy. Like you have to have at least 4 planets in your civilization, and then all of your holidays are interspersed.
that makes
Epcot
me
planet,
wonder, do
right?
they have like a planetary showcase so that you can come there and so you don't have to go to like.
planetary showcase. I love it. Yeah, absolutely.
So there's like the Dagobah Pavilion and the Hoth Pavilion and stuff like that. So you don't actually have to go to those planets.
Oh, right, because there's only like 9 planets that we know of in the Star Wars galaxy. They're all in the World Showcase or Planet Showcase, right? Because obviously there's not other maybe we get the Mon Calamar, like whatever, but
Yeah.
like then there's you got the
and
issue
stuff
like
that.
the next planet over, or they probably have to separate the Mon Calamar planet from like a couple other ones where they serve like fish and other foods like that, because that would be like kind of awkward, I think. But I think a planet showcase would actually be great. I didn't even think about that. That's a fantastic idea. I want to go there. But like, how big can it be? Like, does like they have like 9 planets that originally paid for it, and they just haven't added any more planets in the last 2,000 years?
Yeah, and all the Planet Disney bloggers are speculating when there's going to be another one. They're like, oh,
when are we getting Coruscant? We really want Coruscant. We're never going to get it. We want all the high rises, right? We can't add that to the Magic Kingdom because we don't want high rises in Coruscant and concrete in the Magic Kingdom, whatever the corollary is of that. No,
I keep waiting for Kashyyyk to get added.
so we're now also we've got to consider like obviously it's a theme park and it's just not like a regular regional park, right? This is Disney Planet. It's based off of their IP. That means there's movies and cartoons and stuff like that for children that we've all grown and loved. How long do you think IP can last? Because obviously everything Star Wars is thousands of years old, because we have creatures that are hundreds of years old.
Yep.
So how long does an IP survive? Could we really see like our version of the Pirates being 2,000 years old just because everybody loves it and it keeps on going and going and going? Or are we living in that section? Because maybe there's like an old theme park from like High Republic times that just hasn't been well maintained and updated in 1,000 years, but it's still kind of being operated in that corner of the planet that people still go to for their nostalgia. Like Yoda's grandparents were there 2,000 years ago. He was there as a kid.
Yeah.
I
could see that. I mean, I think like everything though, there's usually some things that last a long time and have nostalgia and stuff like that, but probably the majority of the park is constantly getting updated and redone and stuff like that. But there's definitely like nostalgia land or something like that.
And I think a lot of the stuff is going to be the same because Star Wars people love fireworks. If we remember at the end of Return of the Jedi, the new update, there's like fireworks at every single planet, right? So obviously they have fireworks at the end of every single day. Maybe they all happen at the same time on the planet. It's like a planetary celebration every single day, and they have their own theme songs and stuff that go along with it. But these are the dumb things I think about when I'm driving for work and I'm spending multiple hours every single day. So I was thinking, what does Disney World look like in the universe, the galaxy of that's far, far away. So, yeah, I think that was an interesting thought experiment. I was also thinking of our next thought experiment, but I'm not ready to share that yet.
Okay.
I have to flesh that one out. But it's more of a mashup type of thing. All right. So do we have time for our game, or do you want to go to our DBC engagement?
Let's do our DBC engagement. First thing maybe I'll mention, and then this will kind of prep for our game for next time also. But, we talked last time where I did the game where Jason had to pick what were the top 10 highest rated attractions.
I was an embarrassment to the DBC. Apparently everybody was screaming in their car as they were listening, the safari, and I just not coming to my mind. Awful.
But I think a lot of people had very similar, because I had people guess before the episode came out, and a lot of people guessed a lot of the things you did, with more, I think, of kind of those classic rides. More people had Haunted Mansion and Pirates and stuff like that. So I thought that was kind of interesting. So I don't know if that's just because our community is kind of more people that are into the classics and stuff like that. But I thought it was interesting that there were more thrill rides in the actual highest rated ones.
Well, we got to think like we love Disney for everything that it is, but the people that are putting out these, filling out these form or surveys, they go once every 5 years. They're picking the most exciting rides probably, and they don't have the nostalgia because they're not like us that try to go to Disney World 500 times a year type of thing.
Yeah. So I just thought it was interesting to see that and kind of how that must probably factors into when they're looking at new rides and which ones are going to get, the funding and stuff like that, it's probably fair to expect to see a bigger percentage of them being thrill rides. Not all of them, because obviously they have to cater to kind of everybody, but I wouldn't be surprised if when they get to Big Thunder Mountain, beyond that and stuff like that, that there's more kind of thrill rides being added.
It's more memorable for sure. I mean, I think the dark rides like the Pirates and the Haunted Mansion, like if you see that for the first time as an adult, you go through it and you're like, okay, that was kind of neat. Pirates, whatever. But most people are probably like, I don't get it. Like that was fun, but like, why is everybody going crazy for it? But they just don't have the layers of nostalgia and love for the classics, I guess, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
But going, 0 to 60 on a motorbike in Tron, that's really awesome. So that's probably, what they remember the most.
Everybody kind of understands that concept, whether you know Tron or not, whether you've been to Disney 50 times or it's your first time, you get the idea of being on a motorbike and going 60 miles an hour.
Speaking of Tron, we watched the original Tron like months and months ago, like the fall of last year. Like we were trying to watch those movies in preparation for our last trip, so they understand the Tron thing. So we watched the first movie. The kids kind of liked it more than I thought they would. And then we started putting on the second Tron movie, and we just never got through it, right? We didn't have enough time, and then we just started watching other stuff. So we had movie night last Friday, and they're like, we're going through Disney Plus. What are we going to watch? My wife wanted to start watching more of the classic movies because my youngest daughter hasn't seen like a lot of the classics since she was like a kid, right? Or a toddler, I should say. But they're like, no, they saw Tron go through. Like, we didn't never watch the second Tron. Let's put on Tron. So they watched the second Tron movie, and they absolutely loved it. Like, they all went on the ride. If you remember our trip report, the music hit them. Like, they were kind of nostalgic for like Tron, and they loved the story and all the look for it. I'm like, and we all make fun of Disney investing in Tron because it's like a cult classic. But like, anecdotal evidence of one, right? Like one family, but like they dug the whole aesthetic and the sound and the look for Tron. So Disney might have something there if they push another Tron movie. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I just saw the note, the principal photography for the next Tron movie just finished.
Yep.
Tron Eras, I think it's called. So it's interesting, the concept to say like, we always talk about that. Like, why do you have to have the new attractions based on existing IP or something? You can go the other way, right? You could have the attraction first, but I think they do kind of build on each other, right? So once you have the attraction that lets people live in it, it kind of builds on the movies. You see that, I think, probably happened with Avatar, right? With Pandora. After people went there and experienced it, it made them more excited to see the new movie and stuff like that. So I'm sure that happens with other things.
Yeah, a lot of people clamor for like original IP in the parks, and the people that are making that argument just know everything, every single piece of Disney IP ever. So like, to them, like everything is not original. But there's some people like my kids, they barely, like when they went on Tron, they kind of remember the movie from like 4 months ago. Half of them were not even really paying attention. They kind of vaguely remembered it. But going on that ride made the movie that the second one that they finally saw so much more interesting.
Yeah.
So it had kind of like that reverse effect where it was like the ride was almost like original park IP, and then that had a movie about it. So a lot of people that go, they might go, and I don't know who's going Toy Story Land or Star Wars Land and be like, I've never seen this. I'm going to go investigate this thing called Star Wars when I get home. But like there's other attractions, like I said, Avatar, that might have a similar effect, or Indiana Jones or something else like that might be a catalyst for that type of thing. So that was my derailment, but I just kind of experienced it the other night, and I was kind of surprised by my kids' reaction to it.
But the actual DVC engagement topic was for folks that aren't local to the Walt Disney World. What was the shortest time to decide you had to do a Walt Disney World trip? So what was the least amount of prep you had kind of from when you decided we're booking it to when it actually was? And we did try to put the caveat on there that it was if you decided the kind of last minute to add on Disney to another trip that you were going down to Florida, like I've done that, from down in Florida for work. I'm like, hey, I'm a couple hours away. I'll just go up and go to Disney. That doesn't count. It's kind of like for a real trip. So, I mean, maybe I'll just share, like, to be honest, I think the trip we're doing this August is probably the soonest. It's definitely less than a year. Usually we're planning, close to a year out. I will say it's not me, but the trip coming up that my wife and oldest daughter are doing the end of June, that's definitely the closest for anybody within the family.
Because they weren't going to do that, right?
Right. They kind of like threw it on last minute once, trying to figure out some time to do with something with my oldest daughter, and they realized that she kind of ends school, or at least the classes end earlier. So my wife's like, well, why don't we go do something? Do you want to do? And they kind of quickly settled on doing Disney. And so, yeah, it was felt like a couple weeks after they booked, they were at their 60-day mark and stuff like that. So that's not me personally, but of the family, that's definitely the soonest one. But usually, I was kind of thinking about it. It's just, I think if it was just me and my wife or something like that, it might be easier. But like when you have like 5 people to either drive all the way down to Florida or pay for 5 plane tickets or something, it's kind of hard to do a rush decision, at least for us.
Yeah, all of our trips have been anywhere between. Let's see, our Christmas trip last year could have been our shortest because we decided to go in like June or July, so that's 6 months,
Yeah.
which to me pre-COVID would be like obscene because of the 6 month mark is like that's your ADR day,
Yeah.
right? Like, so that would have been a quick turnaround because we weren't going to go last year, and everybody knows that. So no, but and people might remember this, but our quickest trip was our Labor Day trip coming out of COVID. So that was in 21, right? And we decided to be like, my wife comes into me and I'm sitting at work at my home office, and she's like, let's take the kids to Disney World next week. I'm like, what? Like, excuse me, baking powder? Like, what
did you do with my wife?
What? And I'm like, it was literally the week before Labor Day. I'm like, we can't go next week. It's Labor Day. That's going to be like insanely crowded, at least with locals. But I'm thinking, well, locals are probably already at school already because it's all end of August. So we settled on going the week after Labor Day. So the turnaround for that was like 12 days or so. And we ended up, I just went on and I booked a hotel that's outside of Disney Springs Hotel. And we just got tickets, and we just had we drove down, we went to the parks for 2 days, we drove back home. So it was like not a Disney vacation, but it was a 4-day weekend trip. And that was really fun because my wife was like, basically, this is a trip and we're just going to do rides. It's all we're going to do. It's not like vacation. It's just magical, super quick thing, which I think she enjoyed more, like the rush of like driving for 18 hours, going to 2 parks all day long, and then driving back the next day. Of course, I drove the whole time.
Sure.
But like when we go on vacation for like a 8-day trip, it's just like, oh, this is too tired. I don't want to do all. I'm like, I don't get the 2. But it was a load of fun. I was really happy about that. A lot of people in the community had I don't think anybody really went like quickly, other than maybe Ryan, which was about 2 months. Back in 2019.
Yeah, Mama Six said it was about 3 months. They booked in November and visited in February. It was an offsite house rental. She mentioned, for those of you on Discord, went into some of the story related to when she was a foster parent and some challenges they had with that, and that kind of started some of their love for Disney World. I don't want to necessarily share that. You could go on Discord and read that if you're interested. TL Madden said they might add on Disney to their Universal trip, but that breaks the rules that we kind of put. But he said it was only about a month or two back in 2019 where it looks like it was just for his wife and him. They kind of added on, or they decided to go down for the Galaxy's Edge previews, because at the time they had annual passes.
APs, yep.
But only about a month or two in advance, they decided to book something for when the previews were going on for Galaxy's Edge. So that's, definitely one trend I was definitely seeing was folks who either have like if it happens to be you have an annual pass, or if you're a DVC person or something like that, it seems like a little bit easier for them to just be like, we have some points, or we have these passes or whatever. Let's kind of just book something.
I think I think I should have. I didn't, so it's a valid answer. I think I should have excluded if you had an annual pass, or like this is like you have to go down and spend the maximum money to do it. Like annual, like when you have an annual pass. I mean, this might be just me, but I think a lot of people with annual passes have this, and I've never had one. The draw to go down to Disney World is probably like me being here in Maryland, you being in New York State. Like if you had an annual pass, you'd be like, I just found some quick, cheap airfare. Do you want to go this weekend?
Yeah.
What about 5 days? Would you just want to go like real quick? 1, 2? Like my parents will come over. They'll watch the kids, and it's like $300 to get to Florida and back for this weekend. Do you want to, like, to me, it'd be like, how many times can I go down for the cheapest amount of possible? So I don't think an AP counts because the draw of Disney World is just ever present on you. I don't think that counts, but no, it counts for this obviously because I didn't make that rule.
Yeah, Ryan W. did say that it was 2 months out in 2019, couples only trip in May, and that they had booked a Savannah room in Animal Kingdom. So again, couples only probably makes it a little bit easier, but still, deciding 2 months from now to go. And it is kind of funny that for a lot of other vacations or whatever, you don't need to plan that far out and stuff. But even other people now are like, hey, we're thinking about going to like Disney next month. What do you think? It's like,
I got to mention Lumpy. He said just under 60 days. So that was the shortest one I saw go through our list here. And basically his wife took his daughter to Walt Disney World trip with her friend. And they came back. Like, when is the rest of the family going? We're going in 60 days. So, he planned it there. Which I think is that's actually a pretty quick one. So that goes to show, do you really need to do a lot of Disney planning to go to Disney World? No. But I think the most fun thing, obviously between you and I being planners on the show, we enjoy the run up to a Disney vacation. We would love to be able to go every single day or once a week type of thing. But a great part of any Disney World trip is the anticipation.
Absolutely.
I think. Yep. So that's a key element. Next week I was toying around with this idea and I ended up picking it, but I feel like we've done stuff like this before, but we haven't done it in a while. So I want to ask everybody, if you had to build 3 new hotels, and I'm going to preface this starting off with a value, a moderate, and a deluxe, where would you build them? What would be unique about them, right? I just don't want you, I want to build another resort around, Bay Lake or the Lagoon or something else like that. And it's just going to be whatever. You got to make it unique, right? And, do you build the hotel in a certain way? Is it like all studios? Is it all multi-bedroom type of stuff? Like what kind of design are you thinking about? Maybe there's a question is, what does Disney need? Like that kind of ties into this here. What is your wish list? What's missing for property? And possible alternative if like you're struggling, say, let's say like for me, I don't stay in deluxe resorts. Maybe I say I want a bunch of extra value in moderates. Like maybe you could say like I don't want to do deluxes. I want to do multiple moderates or values. You can alter that. But I'd like to see if you like to one of each level of whatever and kind of like have some fun with it. Where would you put them? Because I think that needs to be strategic. Do we need to make a new bus loop? Are we tying it to a Skyliner? Do we need to extend the Skyliner? Do we need to put it on the monorail somehow? Like I like. How do we squeeze that in type of thing? And what would it look like? Is it going to be another tower? Is it spread out? Is it like, it's, I don't know, are you rebuilding the Venetian type of style resort from one of the OG kind of thing? So let's have some fun with it. Think about it. Because I really want to see, this is a sneaky way of talking about like what room types, what resort types, what's really missing from Disney World in your opinion. What would you like to spend your money on? So I kind of like that kind of conversation because I'm always thinking about, like you mentioned, you're going to a deluxe. but it's easier for you because you're not bringing your whole family along
Right.
with you. So the room types are a lot cheaper for what do you do with 3 of you?
Just the 3 of us. Yeah.
Yeah. So you can have any room type right there, and you can have just 2 queens and force the other 2 kids to share a bed or whatever it might be, type of thing. So, but with 5, deluxe is a little bit harder. So I don't think about that. But what would make what price point would a deluxe make sense for me and my family, and we're not crammed into like paying extra for like a 1 giant bedroom type of thing or a 2 bedroom?
Yeah, I mean that's a lot of the deluxes do actually sleep 5, but it's like 2 and 2 beds and then the fold down and stuff like that. So.
And they're most of the time they're taken too, so it's hard to book a lot of those because I almost never see the 5-person room at a deluxe. Anyway, think about that. I hope that this is a good conversation starter. I'm like 50-50 on this. This is either we're going to get no responses and everybody's going to talk about Star Wars Disney World, or actually we're going to get into this. So we'll see.
And
Phil,
maybe I'll just add, like, if you feel overwhelmed by having to come up with 3, if you have like just one good one you come up with, why don't you share that too? So don't feel like you have to come up with 3. If you want to take on the challenge, please do. But yeah, like think of some cool hotel option ideas for at Walt Disney World, and kind of think about what Jason was talking about, like what's missing at Walt Disney World. Not just like you think this would be a cool theme, but like what type of concept is missing.
Because this goes to, when I talk about this is all going to be about planning. Like what is missing when I'm looking for versions of like cheap, middle ground, expensive resorts. Like I need this feature set to plan a trip. Not like, oh, I really wish they had like Princess Castle I could stay at. No, like, no, that doesn't make sense. I want some of the feature sets that might be missing, and I want to talk about them in a planning sense. All right, Phil, did I forget about anything that you might want to mention?
Just that we kind of rushed into the news thing, so just a reminder of our social media accounts.
Yes.
We're all on Twitter and Instagram, Threads, Facebook, all at the DBC Pod, and of course YouTube channel as well. Please like and subscribe and leave a comment, and of course our Discord server.
Absolutely. Look forward to seeing you on the Discord server. Thank you for watching, listening, everybody, and we'll see you next time.
Take care.